Ah, the pie cooling on the windowsill. It's not so much a dessert as an icon, an edible emblem of America, democracy, and all that is good. But allow me to humbly suggest that in this guise at least, pie is actually a tool of repression. Think about it. It's almost as tedious to eat as it is to make. Specialized equipment is required for extracting the pieces. You need a plate, you need a fork, and then of course you got to have a table to sit at. And as for removing the first piece, well, I just as soon take out my own appendix with a penknife. Nope, this is not a pastry for the convenience age. However, in its original incarnation, the pie looked very, very different. In fact, it looked a lot like this. Now, although any good Southern boy would recognize this device, a gift from our plantation past, most Americans are unfamiliar with this edible envelope and the culinary freedom that it allows. So prepare yourselves, America, because the hand pie or pocket pie is gonna set you free. Not only is it convenient, it's tasty, and it's... Hand pies, pocket pies, or turnovers of various shapes and sizes hail from all over the globe. If you've ever had a pierogi in Cleveland, you can thank the Poles who settled there. Empanadas in Texas, say thanks to Spain, specifically the region of Galicia. Although Louisiana's hot-to-meat pies also reflect some Spanish influence, if you look further back, you'll see Arab intervention in the form of the triangular sambusak pastry. If you've ever traveled the Aegean, you've probably munched down on Greece's kolokots, and of course there's the calzone, which means pants leg in Italian. But the pocket pie concept reached its true zenith in the able hands of Cornish housewives who used to bake up small meat and vegetable pies for their coal miner husbands. They'd wrap them up while still warm in either a napkin or an old newspaper, and they'd stash them in lunch boxes or even right in the pockets of their mates, who then went off to the coal mines. What can I say? Reenactments are really expensive. Lunchtime came, the miner would simply unwrap his parcel, and if his wife had used enough newspaper, the pie would probably still be warm. If it wasn't quite warm enough, he would simply place it on the blade of his shovel and warm it over his wee little lantern. Now, if the miner was really lucky, his wife would use two different fillings. She'd put a savory filling in one end of the pie and a sweet filling in the other.
It's me lucky day.
No, actually, it's me lucky day. So prevalent was the pasty in Cornish cuisine that it is said the devil himself would not go to Cornwall for fear of being cooked into one of these pies. Is that true?
Man, are you kidding? I'm Satan. I'm the thin red dude. I'm not scared of no... Ah!
Well, perhaps before we actually try to make pies of our own, we should consider the various characteristics that we might be looking for in a pocket pie crust. That's going to leave a mark. A proper pocket pie crust is characterized by two seemingly contradictory traits: flexibility and strength. Now, the flexibility comes from the fact that the crust is actually a foam, just like the foam that you see here, made up of very, very tiny little bubbles. Well, you can almost see it here. This is exactly precisely the kind of thing that we want to see in our dough. But there's something else. Step into my office, please. We also want to see gluten. That's what this stuff is. Okay, it's really chicken wire, but work with me here, okay? Any longtime fan of this show knows that gluten is a protein matrix created when wheat flour is mixed together with water. In its raw state, it's very plastic and elastic, but when it is cooked, it is very, very rigid. So how do we get rigidity and flexibility into one dough? By not thinking pie. No, we must think biscuit. Somebody get me out of this thing. Perhaps this would be a good time to review the biscuit method of mixing things after this dough is essentially a biscuit. Come this way, won't you? First, we cut solid fat, in this case shortening, into flour. Now this flour will also be laced with both salt and baking powder. That's where we're going to get those nice little bubbles. When that is done, we will then integrate dairy product, or in this case, milk. That is where we get biscuits, or in this case,
pocket pie dough. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go find some wire cutters. Excuse me. Pardon me.
2 teaspoons of baking powder and 3/4 teaspoon of kosher salt go into 9½ ounces of all-purpose flour. That's about 2 cups. And that we will sift. Only I really hate sifting, so I'm going to do this with my handy-dandy food processor. Besides mixing, the food processor will also aerate the powdered goods, making it easier for the milk to mix in later on. There, that should just about do it. Now this mixture goes into a nice big work bowl. But first, 2½ ounces of shortening, which I have chilled in water. Makes it a little easier to work with. Don't worry about whatever liquid sticks to that. And the dry goods go on top of that. Don't worry about getting a homogeneous mixture here. Just distribute the fat evenly. The rolling pin will even things out later. Kind of mush the flour into the fat using the tips of your fingers. They don't get as hot as your palms, so it won't melt the shortening. Now make a little well in the middle and then pour in 3/4 cup of milk and stir it in good. Now this is different from regular biscuits where we don't want to overwork them. Here we want gluten, so stir your heart out and then turn it out onto a counter, give it a little bit of flour and knead it good and hard 10 to 20 times. The more the merrier. There. Now is the time to summon your favorite rolling pin. I like this French model. No ball bearings, no handles, no funny business. Just a nice taper on both ends and a narrow diameter for better control. Roll your dough out until it's about 1/2 inch thick all the way around, give or take a few millimeters, of course. Then take yourself a 2 1/4 inch cutting ring or a cookie cutter, biscuit cutter, what have you, and cut out your rounds. Remember to push down to the board and then twist to extract your round. Roll your remnant and get as many more rounds out of it as you possibly can. Then reflour your board and roll each one of the rounds until it's 5 to 6 inches in diameter. About like that. As you finish rolling out your dough rounds, stack them up in wax paper. Since a little shot of cold will firm the fat in these rounds, making them easier to deal with later, you might want to stash them in your chill chest for an hour or two prior to forming the final pies. This will give you time to contemplate the proper filling. Now, if we had some fresh fruit, we'd be in luck. Wow, mangoes, my favorite, and gosh, they are nice and ripe. You know, the problem with working with these ancient cousins of the cashew is that they have a flesh that clings relentlessly to these flat, fibrous seeds. Now, there are a lot of strange recommendations out there for how to deal with this. One involves cutting the mango kind of in half with a paring knife and then crisscrossing the inside and then scooping it out with this. You know what? I'd rather remove the thymus gland from a gerbil. Here's what I will do, though. There. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to have to hold on to this wet, slimy thing with one hand while trying to carve it with this knife in the other. I just wouldn't do it. Here's what I would do, though. Slice just a little bit off of each end and then take a corn on the cob holder and push it right down into that seed. Then you can hold on to the holder while you carve off the sides of the mango. Look, no muss, no fuss. There. As the cook, you should get a few bennies every now and then. Bring this to a boil over high heat, then clamp on your lid, drop the heat to a simmer, and cook for half an hour. Move your mango mixture to a large stainless steel bowl and cool it on the counter for about an hour before stashing it in the refrigerator until it's thoroughly chilled, about 3 or 4 hours. Why the stainless steel bowl? Because metal is a conductor and it'll help move heat away from the fruit faster than either glass or plastic ever could. I'll be back. Wow, time flies when you're on TV. Let's pie one on, shall we? I've got my station all set up. Extract a dough, place it in front of me thusly, get a wee spoonful of filling, and place off to one side. Now, this is the first place you can make big mistakes with this kind of pie because the mixture is full of water. Water turns to steam during cooking and can blow a hole in the side of the pie, so no more than that fat spoonful. Next, we have a little egg wash. This is nothing but 1 egg with 2 teaspoons of water. Lightly brush on with your finger, no need for a basting brush. Then we fold over. You want to work this so that any air around the filling works its way out. Don't try to push down on the dough. This isn't a sealing step, just an airing out step. The sealing will come from the fork. Now, there's an art to crimping.